What up TK, YouTube here, and today we are making the scooter faster. We're building a sprocket, we're changing the gearing, and we are hitting 40 kilometers an hour or bust. This is all about pure, unadulterated speed. We've got races to win in the next few weeks. This is the way we're gonna do it. Let's get stuck in. Now on my scooter, I'm using a 15 tooth pinion sprocket. To go faster, I need to go bigger. The problem is you can't get a bigger one online easily in the right fitment that I need. So I'm just gonna make my own instead. But to do this, we want 4mm thick steel. Now I found this post support, which was very cheap and is the right size and is 5mm thick, so we'll work with that. We need a sprocket template, which I have here. And we need some super glue, and then we need to sort of grind it out. And I don't have a mill or anything proper to do this, so we're gonna try and do it with hand tools. First, I'll show you how to make the sprocket template, and then we'll get stuck into it.
Now, before we could start cutting steel, we first needed a template to help give us the shape of the sprocket we're trying to make. To do that, we start with a piece of software called Sprockets 2.0. This is a very simple piece of software that you can download for free, and I'll put a link in the description below. The way to do this is you need to enter the pitch and roller diameter of the chain you're working with and the number of teeth you desire for your sprocket. So we use T8F chain on the scooter, so I looked up the specifications, which is a pitch of 8mm and a roller diameter of 4.7mm. So we enter that in up here. Originally, we were hitting 33 kilometers an hour with a 15 tooth pinion. By dividing 40 kilometers an hour by 33 kilometers an hour, we get a ratio of 1.2121. We then multiply that by the pinion size and we get 18 point something. That shows us that we need a little bit more than that, so if we go for a 19 tooth pinion, we should hit our goal. So we then type in the pitch, the roller diameter, and the number of teeth. We hit go, and Sprockets generates a DXF file and also some G code. Now for our purposes, we just need the DXF file, so we save that. We then import that DXF file into Inkscape. Now, before we can print it out, we also want to put in a provision for mounting this to the motor. So I looked up similar sprockets which are designed to mount to the type of motor I'm using on eBay. In our case, we're using a My 1020 motor, and they generally use this sort of overload mounting scheme where you have a diameter 1 of 10mm and then the width is 8mm. We then just generated that geometry in Inkscape and centered it on our sprocket, and we were all good. With that done, the template was ready to go, and it was simple as printing it out and getting down to work.
Alright, so we've got our template. We need to stick it on the steel. So first we shall rough it up to give the glue something to stick to, and then we will just go ahead and gob on a lot of super glue. Rubber in, and we should be good. Oh, I'm going to stick my finger to it if I'm not careful. Now, if you're worried about getting super glue in your eyes, I have a video on what to do in that event, but basically just let this dry, and then we'll go ahead and start grinding it out. Tell you what, that's a good way to warm up on a winter's evening. Oof. So we've roughed out the shape of the sprocket now, and it's time to start cutting the teeth. Now I've had a couple nips in there with the grinder, and I think that's going to have to be the way to go. I'm just using a 1 or 2mm thick cutting wheel. I could use the Dremel, but this is 5mm thick steel, and it's going to take all night. So I'll probably just use the Dremel to clean it up afterwards, and maybe do this in a hole here. I still haven't figured out how I'm going to do that. But we're going to go ahead and start, you know, just away at these teeth, and hopefully it works out. So we finished cutting out the teeth, and you might be thinking, hey, TK, that doesn't look too bad. And then you look at it from the other side and you realize it looks like an absolute disaster. Absolute pig's breakfast. But doesn't matter because we're not done yet. We're going to drill the center hole, and then we're going to do some cool tricks to try and get this thing down closer to the right width, because 5mm is simply too thick. Most of these taper from 2.5 to 4. So we're going to have a go at doing that. But we're going to start by drilling that center hole. So a lot of my projects I don't actually plan, I just kind of dive in and figure out the problems as I go. This sprocket is no exception with this middle little mounting section here. It's an oval kind of shape for mounting to these MY1020 motors often used in Razor scooters rather than just a circle, which makes it a little bit difficult. I'm just drilling a bunch of holes and then I'm going to try and hog it out with the Dremel's milling type attachment, I think. That's my current plan, but you know, right now I'm just sort of chipping away at it with my 3mm drill bit and we'll see how we go. Okay, so this mean looking little bugger is the Dremel routing tool or milling tool. I'm not sure what it's called, but it's basically you sort of stick it in and then you go sideways with it like you've tried to do with drill bits so many times before and failed. It's actually designed to cut sideways like that. Now, if I was doing this out of a big flat plate, there's a Dremel attachment that you can put on that actually holds the Dremel flat to the surface, and that'd be awesome. I don't have one, and we're not cutting this out of a plate. We're cutting it out of a tiny sprocket because we're doing everything backwards. But we're gonna get it done, and I'm freezing my ass off out here. Let's see how this goes. Okay, believe it or not, I've actually got it looking pretty good on one side with this thing on high speed, so I'm just going to keep going. The real tell will be if that actually fits on the scooter. So I have here the original sprocket for comparison, and it actually doesn't look that awful. I think my hole's a little small. I kind of want to leave it that way just for now. I can always make it bigger later, but if I make it too loose, it won't transfer torque properly. So what we're going to try to do now is we're going to try and reduce the thickness of this part from 5mm down to around about 4, and maybe even tapering to closer to 2.5 at the tip. Now, to do that, a really great way would be to use a lathe, but you're all screaming in the comments, TK, you don't have a lathe. And I don't. We're instead going to make a lathe in probably the worst way possible. First, to do that, we need to mount our sprocket on something, and I'm going to use this M6 bolt. Now, given that the minimum diameter of the slot we've cut in this thing in the center is 8.5mm, you might think, hey, why don't you use an M8? And I'll say to you what my father said to me 20 years ago, son, I'm not made of M8s, and I bloody well don't think you are either. So we're using an M6, and the trick is just get it bloody tight. And if you're thinking, why aren't you using a washer? Well, you can imagine what my father said about that. Would you look at that? Alright, I've been attacking both sides and the chain is starting to fit. It's not quite sitting on there properly just yet, but it's getting there. So I'm going to take it down a bit more and see how good we can get this. Actually, turns out this conical grinder attachment is actually very good for refining a sprocket. I was going to use my go-to, which is the cutting disc, but no, this conical attachment actually makes good sense. So I'm going to keep on at this and see how we go. Okay, so with just a little work with the Dremel, I've managed to actually get 5 or 6 of these teeth meshing with the chain. It's really just about going in there, creating the proper space for the roller, and making sure that the teeth don't catch on the rollers either. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to have to go buy some more of this conical tools because I've ruined this one already and I've only got one left. But I think we might actually be able to do this. Okay, so something just revolutionized my life. I was going to buy more grinding stones because while they're working to make these teeth, they're also breaking really quickly. And then I was talking to this dude, this random dude, shout out random dude in the red hoodie. And yeah, he's like, nah, get tungsten carbide because you're working with steel. I got 9903, it's this round tipped tungsten carbide bit, and it just eats up. I'm not gonna do it because these teeth are coming up good, but yeah, it just eats up the steel. Real easy, doesn't wear out like the crappy little grinding stones do. Cost me $22, but it is good, so I'm gonna go ahead and do this. Would you look at that, just chews it up. And you can see that I'm gradually getting the chain to mesh. I kind of messed up this one a little bit. I went a little bit too happy and it's tiny, but we'll get there. We will get there. So I came back and took one more look at the sprocket this morning, giving it a final once-over with the tungsten carbide bit on the Dremel, and that has just been absolutely amazing. Now, the chain actually fits pretty well over the teeth. It might look like a dog's breakfast, but it meshes pretty well. So I'm thinking it's going to work. The only thing I'm now worried about is whether or not I got the mounting hole dimensions right. Regardless, we're going to go ahead, jump on the scooter, try and stick this thing on. Hopefully won't have to change the length of the chain, and see if we go any quicker. Should be good. Unusual. Awesome. I think this is going to go on first time. Nope, it ain't. It sure ain't.
So what I've decided to do here is I'm actually using a 13.2 sprocket as a template. I'm going to go through with the tungsten carbide again and see if I can clean up the hole and make it work, because I love this new bit on the Dremel. It's just amazing. That's got it. Now there's a little slop side to side, but I think with the bolt done up, that shouldn't really be a major problem. I am thinking they were probably going to have to extend the chain, which is going to be a big pain in me rectum. Alright, I've lengthened the chain, tightening the sprocket on. This is going to be awesome. Or terrible. Both? Oh, that's awesome. Let's give it a test. Bit lumpy. Now you can see the chain jumping there a little bit. It was doing it worse off camera when I first tested it. What I think that is my sprocket teeth aren't perfect. They're either not meshing in or they're not coming unhooked easily enough because we don't have proper profiles on the teeth. We've just got a bunch of points that kind of poorly interface with the chain. However, I think we can make this work. It's going to wear in, it's going to get better as it goes as all the steel rubs up against each other. I did only use mild steel that was galvanized, so it shouldn't have too much trouble wearing away. If I'd use hardened steel, it would probably never get any better, but it should improve. I'm going to put some gear oil from my Volvo on the chain, and then we're going to give it a whirl, aren't we? Oh my gosh. Hope we go fast. Hope we go real fast. This is 75 weight, 90. This is actually from the differential in the Volvo, which you saw me get the other year. This is really not working at all. God, this is going to make a horrible mess. Wheels covered in oil, that's fine. Probably couldn't have done a worse job of that actually if I tried. Alright, we've got it laced up, the sprocket is on. I've given it a little run up and down the driveway. So basically, you know, I've given it a rev. She's looking good. All that's left to do now is take it out on the road and go flat out, see what we hit. Quick little warm up. Time for a speed run. We're hitting a strong 35, 37. There's a car. Oh my God. 38. I reckon we're getting good results today. I reckon 38 is probably realistic. 39. Come on, what if I crouch down? Crouching down. Maximum aerodynamic efficiency. Bumpy ride though. Can we hit 40? I'm tucking my arms in. We're hitting bumps. Oh, this is dangerous. Oh, we hit 40! Oh, we hit 40! Oh my God, I'm calling that a solid 40 kilometers an hour, ever so just. Oh, she handles great, and the brakes, oh, what an addition. Oh my God! Oh shit! Holy! Okay, all the passenger's feeling it now. Oh, we're flying. Big bumps. Next time on Mighty Scooter Mods.